Hello everyone, welcome to part 2 of the office ceiling tutorial. We're going to be working on the base color on this episode. Alright, so in the last one, obviously we left off finishing the height. And now to get started on the base color, we're going to start with a uniform color with a value of 0.6 for the, the brightness, or like the light and dark. I think it does that for value. Okay, so plug that into your base color. I always like to leave my non-uniform off to the side, just in case I need to go back and like mess with my roughness and stuff. I can just make everything gray, so it's easier to look at the roughness. So I leave that there. Alright, so once we have our uniform color, we are going to be painting next our tiles that are offset, that are like, they have a higher value. Because I want to be able to paint the edgeware. Because if we look at our reference here, where are they? It's a little brighter on the non-flat area. I'm guessing it's probably from light source, but also you would assume that it'd be a little brighter because it's like edgeware. All right, so we need to be able to we need the mask for those tiles. So we are going to look over here, and this is before we add like the variance, because this mask we don't want it to be affected by, because these are supposed to be like some are lower than others. So we're gonna pull from this guy, the blend, and we're actually going to pull into a scan. Where was it? So I'm gonna pull out from it, and I'm gonna leave a connector there, and then I'm gonna pull from it and make a scan. Actually, I think we can move this back some. Alright, and then from this connector, we're gonna pull into an invert grayscale. And then we are going to do a histogram scan set to 1:1, and then we're gonna blur it by 0.5. And I'll explain what's happening here in just a second. And then this scan needs to be set to 1:1 as well. I was thinking we could do this differently, but it's fine the way it is. Yeah, every time I go over my work again, I was like, oh, this could have been better, this could have been different, but or use less notes, but it's okay. And then let's do this thing real quick. And then plug that in there. Okay, so what I did here is I took the mask, and then I scanned it to make sure there's no like um, there's no like grayscale, no curves on the edges. And then here I inverted it, and then here you can see that we do have some. So I scanned it to go all the way out. Now these are fine. And then I blurred it a little bit. And then I used this mask, and I multiplied it with this one to isolate just the edges of those tiles, of the mask tiles. So now we have these two. And obviously this is all procedural, so if I were to change the amount of tiles here, so if I increase this, you can see that the other one gets added. So I'm going to undo that. So now these offset tiles, the edges are a different color. So if we look over here, you can see here they're a different color. Okay. Next is going to be pretty easy. I'm just going to paste these guys over here. And then we are going to plug into here. we're gonna make some room over here. That's gonna go in here. And then we need to plug in our warp grayscale guy. So make a connector, drag from it, and plug that into the bottom of this vector warp grayscale. So we have a moisture noise here with a scale of 3. I think everything else should be the same. And then, well, like I said, we have our vector warp grayscale, so we can break up the tiles. And then I play with the position here with the histogram scan into a copy. And this is just to add some color variation to the our tiles. So if we Shift D to hide and unhide, you can see that there's some variation. And like most of our materials, we're going to be, adding more colors into it. So for now, this is happening to everything universally, and then we're going to, you know, we're going to override. So don't worry about like this variant of color here on the light, because we're just going to paint over it later. So right now we're just worried about the main tiles. Alrighty. Next we have put that over there. Okay. Next, we're going to be pulling from a vector warp grayscale. So I think we only have one down here. So it's going to be this guy. I forgot to number these guys like I've done before. I always forget things. Okay, so here we are, like I said, we're pulling from the vector warp grayscale and we're just plugging it directly into the opacity slot. And we're using a uniform color. I think I forgot to show that, a uniform color. So you can see the settings there. Let me go back and show you guys these guys. Just a lot of gray values, just slightly different. I think I had to show that one. So yeah, so here we're just painting this little dips, the little noise stuff. Then next we're gonna paint the tinier ones. So let's move this down. And these are all set to just copy, because we're just using masks. And then we have another one here. And for this one, we are going to be, like I said, we're doing the smaller ones. And obviously we want the one after the subtraction, because remember we subtracted the bigger noise from the little ones so that the little ones aren't on the big ones. So we're pulling from after the subtraction, just feeding it right into that. That's the uniform color settings there. And now these little guys have color. Okay. How do I want to do this part? Just do it. We'll just take it slow here. Okay, so let's keep moving this down. We have another uniform color here. And a copy. And all of these colors should be reduced in size just to save on performance of the graph. Except for this one. Leave this one at 2K. Because this is what's going to, if I change this one, it's going to change all of these resolutions. And it's always being driven by this middle guy. So if you plug in like a lower resolution middle guy, it's going to change everything in here. But this guy can be lower res. Okay. Where do we leave off? Right. So here we added the next blend, and for this guy we need to pull from. We're gonna pull into a levels, and I'll show you that in a second. But we're actually going to pull from these guys here, and before the levels, we want the full mask, and the levels there affected the mask. So we're just gonna move this down so it kind of lines up this way. Let's move this guy over here. Okay, so now we're painting the this guy here. And again, it's okay that it's spilling over because we're going to paint the frames afterwards. All right. All right, next here, I'm going to just pull this stuff here and paste it over here. I'm going to open up Substance Painter because we use a texture from Painter, and as usual, I have an alternative for you guys. So let me pull up Painter. 1 second. Okay, so we're back, and I have Substance Painter open here, and we're looking for Grunge Dust White. I think it's this guy here. Yeah, this guy right here. So if you have Substance Painter, go here to Textures, and then look for Grunge Dust Wide, and then to get this into your designer graph, go there and go hit Show and Explorer. That'll lead you to where all of these guys are, and then it should highlight the one that you right-clicked, and then just drag it in here, and then you have it. So that's what I used for this graph, but if you don't have access to Painter, I do have an alternative. So let me just get it in here. Let me copy paste this. So if you have Painter, you can probably skip this part of the tutorial, but I'll just walk. It's not perfect. So this is the one I made, and then this is the one that we took. Now it's supposed to just be dust. So you can play with these settings and try and get something closer, but for the purposes, it's not going to be that big of a difference. But they're dusty, so it's good enough. So if you want to do this one because you don't have access to Painter, because I do suggest you use the one from Painter and get used to finding more variety, I do suggest you go to Painter because there's more there as well. Okay, so we start with the fractal sum base. You can see the settings there. I did a clouds 3. I blur the clouds. This should be set to 1. Into a blend, and I subtract 0.54. And then I have a dirt 4 here, and I subtract again 0.28 on opacity. I have a Perlin noise and auto levels. Screen it. Then I have a black and white spots 1 here. And then I did another blend. I multiplied these two by 0.32. Then I pull from this auto levels into a transform 2D. What did I do here? I don't know what I did to this one, but I guess just match these numbers. And then we have a dirt 3 here, and then I multiply them to get this effect. And then I just screened it with the top one. And then we got this. So you can just drag all of this and just... Actually, I would put it above it and then just do this. Just drag from it, and then just drop it in here. Keep it away, because otherwise you'll have like all of this stuff just to fit in where this guy is. Because I just docked them. If you press D on a node, you can dock it just to take up less space. So I do that sometimes when it's like a node that doesn't really do, like it's very like an auto levels. I would dock because it's like an auto levels. It doesn't have any settings. But yeah, put this somewhere close and then just drag from it. If you are running, I think the newer versions of Designer, which I plan on getting soon, you can what's it called? You can do a dot node, which is the connector thing, and I can't do it in this version, but if you were to click this, you can make basically, you know how we use these to connect two of them? Well, you can connect two nodes together without an actual physical connection like this, and they can like communicate without a string. You can probably Google how to do that. It's pretty simple, but I'll probably show you guys when I do update or upgrade to the newer, because I'm on the Steam version. Okay, so we're gonna resume the tutorial. Now that we have this alternative, you can just plug this in wherever you see a green node like this or grunge dust, you can plug that in. Okay, so we have a moisture noise here into a transform 2D, and then I moved it off a bit, so there's a little bit of an offset to it. We have a levels into a multiply blend, and then I multiplied a clouds 3 into it. And then we did a copy with 0.25, and then we used this guy here. And like I said, you can just plug in from up there. And then into a multiply, into a histogram scan. And then we're going to feed this into like that. Okay, so what's happening here, we're just using a moisture noise here, and we're just playing with it, changing it around. Oops, I'll do that. And basically, we're just adding some dirtying to the fluorescent light cover thingy. So it's, and here, what we did here is we used the mask of it to just paint it a base color, and now we're adding layering on top of it. So like I said, we pulled from this guy into a levels here, and I think this level is just the default stock levels, into a copy, into a 0.5 uniform color. I think that covers everything so far. This one's 0.35. This one's also copy. Okay, so then after that, actually let's make another one up here because we're gonna be needing this later. So then after this, be like that. Okay. So then here we have the dirt 3 into a histogram scan, into a blend, and we're just gonna keep pulling from this guy here because right now we're just working exclusively on the light panel. So I just keep using this mask to multiply and isolate, get rid of everything else except for whatever's on the thing. And then we're gonna plug this into the middle. So now we're just adding more layering on top, more detail. Okay. So then we pull from the mask again and we invert it because I want to use ambient occlusion here to give me like artificial shadowing. And then I use the levels here. You should be able to just hit auto levels, but we can round this up just to make it easier on you guys. We'll just make this 8. I'll make this 54. There you go. And then we get this. And then here I multiply just in case there was anything leaking over to mask it out. And then that's going to connect there. And then we need to plug this guy in the middle. So now we have like some dirtiness on the corners using the ambient occlusion. Then after that, that's pretty much it for the paneling. So now we're going to move on to the vent. This one's fun. Alright, so where's our vent happening? So it happens over here, so I'm going to just try and move everything down to be near it. Like about there. Okay. Is this set up? Yeah. Okay, so we're gonna, since we're working on the vent, we're gonna go over here and we're gonna pull from this transform 2D. So we're gonna pull, I'm gonna put it over there. And then that's it for the start. Okay, so I took this and then I just scanned it into Oblivion 1-1 just to make sure I get all the max bounds of it. And then we have a solid square for it. And then we feed that into the opacity. And then we have a uniform color here. And then we're using that mask to apply the base color on just the area for the vent. And let me grab this stuff here, copy and paste. Then let me plug this stuff in. This guy plugs into down here. This guy in here. And then this guy just continues on. Okay, so what's happening here is I'm taking a moisture noise here and I'm playing around with the pattern size. Because I like this noise actually, it looks pretty cool. Then I do a transform 2D to increase the tiling. And then here I take the grunge dust white. Don't forget, if you see this green node, you can just pull from this guy if you don't have the painter file or painter to use it. And then I auto levels that. And I tile this one 4 times. So now I have a bunch of tiling going on here. So then I multiply to try and get like a mix of both. Then I blur it a little bit. And the reason why I don't care that it's tiling so much is because we're only using a small bit of it. So you can't really tell here. And then this feeds into the opacity, copy, set to 1, into our uniform color here. And again, we're just adding some variation to the plastic, so it's not just all the same color. So it's because it's been dirty, so we're trying to dirty it up a bit. Like I always say, it's all about subtle details, subtle differences to make your materials more believable. Then we're moving on to the next part. This is going to continue over here. And this goes past. And then here we add another layer of dirtiness. So we have here clouds 2. And we increase the tiling again, times 8. Then we invert it. Then we auto level it. Then here we play around with the level out high. And then here again, we multiply with the mask to isolate everything else because we only want this to be on the vents. Then we plug it in, and then we have a uniform color and another layer. And again, the reason why this is extra dirty is because these vents are constantly pushing dust out the vents. So if we look at I can close this now. If we look at our, where is it, references, and we look at this guy, you can see here there's like some dirt accumulating in some spots. You have like these darker spots here. You can see here it's like a little darker on this corner. So I'm just trying to make sure that we get some of that dirt detail on there. Alright, so we're going to continue on. Make sure we plug that in there. This is going to go in there. And then this in here. Boom, boom, boom. And then here, we're going to be adding some more intentional, if you look here at the 2D screen, kind of dirt coming out of those vents. So to do that, now here I use a different grunge map from Painter. This one's called Grunge Dusty Powder Soft if you want to bring this one from Painter. But if you, like I said, if you're not using Painter, you can just reuse this guy. And plug that in here. But pay attention to the tiling. So like this is tiling 6 times. So then I would do a 2D on this guy. And then probably try and match the amount of tiling that you see here. So this is like 1, 2, 3, 4 by 1, 2, 3, 4. So then I would go back here and maybe 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, there you go. So you probably want this, yeah, 4 times. So yeah, pay attention to that. Oh, sorry for this guy. So this is actually 6. So you probably have to go one more time. It's actually 8 here, but that's okay. Actually, if you want, you can actually just hold Shift and Control, so you can scale proportionally, and then try and match it that way. Now this does break tiling, but we don't care because no one's going to be able to tell for 2 reasons. The main reason no one's going to be able to tell is because they're a human. Actually, there's 3 rules. First one, because they're a human. Second is because this is tiling so many times that a subtle difference like that line you see there, isn't really noticeable when it's that small. And third, we're only working with the noise in this little segment. So no one's going to notice that the tiling's breaking because it's only it's not even visible. No one can even see where the tiling is breaking. So it's like they can't even see it because it's not shown to them. All right. So yeah, so we're using the Grunge Dusty, a different one here. And then we're auto leveling it. And then we're pulling from this guy, which is the event mask itself before the scan. And then we invert it because I want to use the white mask. And then here I multiply with the mask to isolate the vent. And then I use the levels here to play around with the grayscale values. And then I use the levels here to play around with the noise from the auto levels. And then I multiply it together. So I multiply the ambient occlusion, the shadowing, with the noise to get this. And then from here, I copy it with this uniform color here. And then we get this. Okay. Now here's a little bigger one. Graph this. Plug that in. Boom, boom, boom. Okay. Let's make sure everything's connected first. So that's going to connect there. That's going to connect there. Boom, boom, boom. All right. So same thing. If you're not using Painter, plug that same old guy there. This one's tiling 8 times, so just do pay attention to that, please. But even if you're off a little bit, probably not that big of a difference. Then we have a clouds 2. We invert it. We level it a little bit here. Then I subtract to kind of break up the tiling a little bit. Then I have a multiply with the mask again to get rid of everything else. Here I take the actual vent height information and I hit this guy here, the invert. This is like an invert grayscale. If you ever see that this corner or this little slider here guy is white and this one is black, that means it's been inverted, because typically when you use a levels node, black is on the left corner, bottom left, and white's on the bottom right. So if you ever see something weird, it's because they've been reversed if the white's down here. So you can just hit this and then these settings. And then I multiply. It's there, but it's very, very subtle. I don't know why that's down there. Should be right there. Actually, I know why. Stick to the plan. Then we have another levels here. Then we blur it. And then we are pulling from the height information from the vent. And then we're playing with it. Then we subtract this from the very faint noise. And then we copy it using a uniform color of 0.325. Let me show you. Maybe I should have made this stronger, but I can't even tell where it is. I'm gonna hold on, I'm gonna turn this to red. Okay, so there's a little bit right there. Why is that so hard to see? We're gonna do a levels after this. Now we're doing this live at this point. Why do you look like that? I maybe because of this. Alright, I'm gonna stop trying to do this live. Be right back. Alright, backspace this guy to get rid of him. And we're actually going to play around with this levels here. So go to this guy, and because this is driving the multiplication, the brighter this is, the more of this noise we're going to see. So if we go to this level and just pull this slider back, you can see that we're bringing back more of the white, which will bring back more of the noise back. Instead of trying to artificially make up for it with the new levels, we're just going to use this guy here. So now you can see the difference. And now what this noise is supposed to try and mimic is like these extra darker spots that are like very noticeable here. They're very faint. but you see there's a bit of a gradient to them. You see there's kind of like a dark spot here, dark spot in this corner and stuff. So again, this is very subtle, but makes all the difference when it all comes together. All right. Moving on. We're about halfway done. I'm gonna try and speed it up here. That goes in there. Oh, let me show you the settings for this guy. So I'm gonna go with these settings here. Sorry about that. Plug that in there, plug that in there. We're actually doing 2 steps here. Okay, so we're coming off from this guy into this levels here. Like that. And then we're feeding this into a subtract here. And we have a white noise fast. We're subtracting. Then we're blurring. Then we're auto leveling. And we're still working on the vent. And we're plugging that into the opacity with a uniform color of 0.4. And you can see here the difference. Now we're adding like actual dust, like buildup. Then we pull from this levels down here into a sharpen to get like smaller specks. And I want them to be around the buildup. So I'm using this again. And then you can see the difference here. And like I said, I wanted to be on top of the buildup as well, because it's then you see you have darker spots on top. And sharpen, set to 1, uniform, copy. Alright. No, that does not go in there. We need to pull. Now we're going to be working on more vent dirt. Alright, this is the last one. So we're going to be pulling from, where are we at? Actually, we need to create a new mask. So we're going to start from this blur. We're going to create a blend and plug this into the middle. And then we need to pull from this guy and create a connector down here. And we are going to go all the way back to our original offset mask. So we're going to pull from this guy here. I think it's because here we have, yeah, here's where we start adding the slope stuff. We don't want any of that. We just want the mask for the tiles. And then we're going to plug this back in. Not there. That's for later. Right here. And it's going to go into the top. And then we're going to do an add linear dodge. And then we're going to use this guy, and we're going to pull this into the ambient occlusion, which is all the way over here. So I am going to grab everything down here and all of these guys. I'm just going to slide everything over. keep everything kind of lined up. All right. So now that we have this ambient occlusion, let's finish plugging the rest in. I think that's it for this part. Let's connect to this. Okay, so what we're doing here, we're adding the dirt that's accumulating on the under the framing stuff, the frames, and we're also, this is before, and then this is after, so we're getting some of that dirt accumulating under the frames and spilling over into the vent. Because if we look closely here, like we did in the height, there's like a little bit of a gap here. So we're gonna have some dirt kind of coming out of there. So in order to do this, we took the ambient occlusion mask of that temporary mask we made, we inverted it to work with the white. I used the levels here to tighten up the reach of the ambient occlusion, because I don't want the dirt to be like, you know, creeping crazily. It's still an office space, it wouldn't really get that dirty. Then we have a multiply, and we're multiplying by the grunge white again. To get like the subtle dust. Then we're auto leveling it to try and bring the main range, the full range again. Then we have a, let me undock these guys. Then we have a moisture noise here again, set to random seed of 1, doesn't really matter. Levels here, and then just multiply that to kind of break it up, because right now the dust is kind of like even everywhere, and I use this moisture noise to multiply some of it out, so it's like it's accumulating extra there, but then it kind of faints out a little bit over here, but then it comes back, just so that it's not all evenly the same amount of dirt everywhere. It's always a good idea to break it up. So before, after, and then we're using a dirt color of just 0 for this guy, just pure black. Then after that, whoops. Plug that in there, and then we need to make another mask. If we go back to near this guy, we're gonna pull from this levels here, and then we're gonna do a scan set to 0.5 and 1. So 0.5 and 1. And then we're gonna pull out from this guy. Like that. And then this is gonna feed into the opacity for that new one we just made. So we masked out the frames. And then we're just adding a base color to them. So that's pretty easy. Next, we're gonna grab these guys. And then for this one, we're gonna pull from that same mask again. Because now we're gonna keep using the frame mask. Because we wanna be able to mask out our new dirt and stuff just to the frames. So what's happening here is we're just adding another layer on top of our base. It's very subtle, but you can see it changing there. And like I said, it's not something you can troubleshoot by just changing this to red, and then you can see where it's being applied. Okay, so real quick, black and white spots 3 into a histogram scan. We use the mask and we multiply it out. We use the levels. Into copy, into this color, Pretty simple. And then here's a chunky boy. And we're getting close to the end now. And the last bits are pretty easy. We're past the hard stuff. Or the complicated stuff. I mean, none of this is really that hard. Okay, so we're going to drag this guy out because we're going to plug him in over here now. And there. And then we need a new mask. We're going to pull from this ambient occlusion here from the frames. Pull it down over here. And then this is going to go across into here. All right, and then there's one thing missing here. It's one thing here that's kind of ruining everything. We need to go back to this area here. Then we're going to pull from this blur again. Just going to place it here to create another highway. And then this is going to go all the way in here. Now everything comes back. So I'm going to just slide this guy over. And then you can see here now that we have some dirt on top of the frames. For some good detail of that. You can see that there's like some extra dirt sitting on the frames in some of these. Very subtle, but yeah, some of them are like accumulating dirt and stuff. So that's what we're trying to add. So let's go over how we did that. Again, we just took from that grunge that we've been using, the dust. Here I tile it. Then we have a Perlin noise. I tile it. Then I take this ambient occlusion that we used here, and I slope blur it. So we go from this to this. And it's at a very subtle intensity, and I set this to min. Then I invert it. And then here I multiply out the mask here. And this is coming from that new one we just made. I'm just coming from this blur, grayscale. And then, wait, no, that's not where we're at, we're here. So then I multiply to get this. And then we use a levels here to play around with the noise. Into a multiply, and then we have a clouds 3 here. Then we play around with the clouds 3 with a level. Just to kind of, again, break up the dirt here. So it's like stronger in some areas than others. And then I highlight some of those spots to make specific areas stand out more. And then that's how we get. And then we have a uniform color. Okay, we're almost there, guys. This is gonna be the quick stuff here. Now, for this ambient occlusion, we're gonna pull from our from after the tack or the little clip thingy. So we're gonna use this blend before we lower everything. So here, it's gonna go over here, and we're actually gonna grab everything from the initial shape of the little clip thing on the lights, and here, actually exclude the. You don't want to pick these guys up, so I'm gonna redo the selection here. Probably shouldn't have grabbed that guy, but it's okay. We'll move him back in a second. So I'm just gonna slide everything over. Alright, so what's happening here is we're taking just an overall blanket ambient occlusion of everything. I invert it, because you can see here that these guys are reversed. And I don't think I play with anything else, I kinda just left it default. And then this is set to black. And then this is just like blanket ambient occlusion added to the base color. Very subtle, just on the very, very dark creases. Now here we're just gonna do 3 of them at once. 3 sections. Plug that in here. This guy plugs in there. And then this guy goes in there. This guy goes in here. Make sure they're all connected. Okay. And then we need to plug something in here, and that's going to be after the histogram scan of the our little smoke alarm or smoke detector. Okay, so here we add the color of the yellow smoke detector, and then we kind of add some more variance, and then here we add nothing because I think we're missing a connector here. Yeah, I need something to go into this ambient occlusion. And what's going to go in there, it's going to be this guy here. To get the ambient occlusion of just the smoke detector. And then that's going to paint the inside a little bit here. Okay, so let's walk through this real quick. So like I said, we pulled from that scan down there into a copy with a uniform color. Then we have a clouds 2 with a bit of disorder into an auto levels, into a multiply. We multiply by the mask of the smoke alarm to get rid of everything else. Then we have a levels here. We play around with some of the settings. Then we do a copy again. Then we have a uniform color. Then, like I said, we took the ambient occlusion of just the smoke alarm. We invert it. We do a multiply with the mask. Then we blend that back into the opacity with another uniform color. Just to kind of, so it's just not sitting there being the same flat color. We got to break it up a bit. Okay. All right, we're just about there. We're like 90%. For this guy, we are going to pull from, because right now we're painting the ring inside the smoke alarm. We're going to pull from this guy here. So actually, this should go before, because here we're adding kind of like shadowing, and the shadowing should occur before the base color. So what I like to do is first connect the blends. So this guy should go here because I want this to come first. Then this guy should go in here because this is going to come after. And then this guy is going to connect there. So technically right now it does work, but it doesn't look right because we know that this is actually supposed to be before it. So I'm just going to move this guy down here, move this guy before it, and then move this guy back. And then just fix these guys here. Now it's very, probably can't tell the difference, but this is better because now there's a difference in color because it's like you can see it's darker here and brighter here. But before, this guy was on top of everything because it came last. So pay attention to your ordering. Don't be a noob like me. Okay. And then we have another simple. And then for this guy, we are going to. Actually, no, we already did this. Whoops. Yeah, I'm just getting confused because I reordered it. Okay, so now we do text. I noticed in the, I think this is our first time doing text. In the alarm, it seems like there's something here. I don't know if it's text or what, but I went with text because I didn't want our smoke alarm to look naked. So to do text, I just do a text node, and then I typed Snow Penguin with a couple spaces in between. So let's try and redo that. I'm just gonna write Snow Penguin. I'm gonna leave everything else just the way. Actually, no, I'm gonna change the font size to 0.004. The reason why it's shifting between this and this, it's because I'm looking at the text node from the main graph, from the original graph, and then I'm looking at ours. Okay, so I'm just gonna set up my text here. Then I'm gonna do a transform 2D. I'm just gonna copy this guy. Just plug that in there. Just do the usual stuff. So here we type in our name, and then here we move it into place. And then I sharpen it to kind of get some of that definition back. It's not perfect, but obviously we're working with 2K. If we're working with 4K texture, we'll probably be able to see it better. So then I position it, and then I add a couple spaces in between the text to push them apart. So if you double click here. Probably go with that. And then that's how we get. You can put whatever you want in there. You can put your name, make up a name, make up a company. But I just went with Snow Penguin. Okay. Now we're gonna do the last. We have 3 parts left, and this is the. We're gonna be doing the fluorescent lights that are inside of the or behind the screen here. So I'm gonna grab all of this, copy, and I'm gonna slide all these guys down a little bit. I'm gonna paste this over here. So now if we look here, you can see that I added 3 bars. Pretty simple, just played around. I started here with a gradient linear 2. Also, by the way, I don't know if I showed this color here. And this is set to copy. We have a gradient linear 2. I used the transform 2D to kind of squish it, play around with it. Then I used the levels here to tighten up the bar. Then I did a transform 2D at the bottom because there's 3 of them. So this is the middle one. This is the left one, and then I just moved it into place, nothing fancy. Once I moved it into place, I mirrored it to get the third one. And then I just added back in with the middle one to get 3. Then I tighten up the bars a little bit. Then I do a manual blur. Then I make it smaller. I play around with the size again. And then this one I move it into place. And then I plug it back into the opacity with a brighter version of the main plastic so that it looks like this. Okay, and then as usual, we end up with our usual last 3. So I'm just gonna get rid of that now. I need more room, so I'm gonna undo that. I'm gonna move everything back a little bit. Then plug this in. And then before any of this works, we need to plug in our normals into here. So make sure we are pulling from after our combination of our pattern, our light pattern. We want to make sure we're pulling from here and not here, because then we won't get that information. So we need 2 connectors here. First one's gonna go in there. Second in there. Let's move this guys down. So yeah, this is something I like to do for all my graphs for the most part. Curvature smooth, and remember, match your normal format. I'm working with DirectX, so anywhere where I can change my normal format, it's set to DirectX. They have to all match up. If you're doing OpenGL, make sure you're using all OpenGL, and vice versa. Curvature smooth, into a gradient, into a stock gradient map, into an overlay, and this just kind of highlights, gives a little bit of a highlight on everything to kind of make everything pop. Then same thing, but this time we use a curvature Sobel, 0.5 intensity, and then we overlay that with a very subtle value, because if you go too high, you're gonna get something like this. It's gonna look funky. So subtle, and then I throw in a sharpen because I like everything to be sharp and very defined. So we go from this, where it's kind of blurry, and we tighten it up a bit. And then that's it for base color. I will do emissive with the roughness. And roughness is going to be a lot shorter, just because we have all the legwork set up already, which is just going to be pulling from the base color information from like these noises and stuff. Let me just look over this again. So yeah, so now we have the base color done. We have our dust. It looks really nice. We have some spots where it's more noticeable than others, because that's like where the dust is accumulating more than other spaces. We have an overall dirtiness in there with a lot of variation. We have dirtiness on our light as well. Our crevices, we have some dirt piling up or accumulating on the frames. We have a lot of good detail. We have some text. A lot of good detail here. So it'll all come together when we do the roughness, and we'll do an alternative emissive map. Alright guys, hope you guys learned something new, and I'll see you guys on the roughness. Peace.